My friends, hello and welcome back to the Fireside. It's a cool night here, about 10 Celsius, 50 Fahrenheit, maybe a little bit lower, kind of raining on and off as well. And so I figured, what better night than to sit down by the fireside and tell a story. Or in tonight's case, perhaps multiple stories, or at least impart some knowledge with you all. You know, oftentimes these fireside stories, there are a lot of great tales to tell, of course. Anyone familiar with speedrunning and gaming stories will know that there's never an end of tales to tell. But some of them can be, a bit of a challenge to tell by the fireside. There's a lot of details and a lot of stories, and you want to make sure to get them all right. And I don't really have any fancy teleprompter or anything like that. It's it's just me and the fire sitting in this chair. So tonight I figured we'd keep it simple, and I would tell a story about something that I know very, very well. So tonight we're going to discuss the top 5 GoldenEye longest standing untied world records. And we're going to talk about each one of these records, a little bit about their history and what makes them so special, and why they've managed to remain untied for as long as they have, and if perhaps we'll see anyone tie them or attempt to tie them in the future to come. So with that, let's get started. As it stands, as of recording this video, GoldenEye's longest standing untied world record, that is of course to say, the record which nobody else, only one person holds, rounded to the full second, and no one else has that same second. The longest standing untied world record is that of Luke Pettit on Frigate Secret Agent 58 seconds, set on March 1st, 2017. It's now been untied for more than 3, going on 4 years. And, I guess we'll start really by diving right into it, because this record has a lot of story and lore to it. Frigate Secret Agent, of course, is one of the levels that's most common to see cheated or spliced runs. I've spoken about this at length in a number of videos, including one of my first firesides about cheated runs in the GoldenEye Elite community. And I've spoken about it in other SpeedLore episodes as well. And so I've spoken about these splices on Frigate a number of times. The reason it's such a tempting level to splice is because the hostages objective, rescue hostages, objective A, is very, very luck-based. For example, the record I'm about to tell you about, Frigate 58 seconds Secret Agent, what you would do to complete the record would be run through the frigate, get to the end of the boat, complete all the objectives in 58 seconds, and hope the hostages escape. Hope that the slower hostages found their way to the fastest escape point and didn't bump into guards and other nonsense on the way, and despawn and complete the objective. Oftentimes this objective will complete in the fade out of the level, the last 1 second of the level. If an objective appears on screen at that point, you do not see it complete on screen. You do not see objective A completed. It just completes in the fade. That's what we call it. And so it's very easy to play out a run of Frigate Secret Agent in 58 seconds, for example, and pretend it completed in the fade and splice on a cutscene and appropriate end screen. And this is something that I myself did in the year 2007 with the time 1 minute, 1 second. And this is, the splice was one of the splices that were so bad that you could actually see the splice time in a frame before moving on to the completed screen. My video editing skills were not as they are now. So that's always kind of funny to look back upon. And this was, of course, a level where Henning infamously spliced a 1 minute record in 2011, 2012. And the series of splices eventually led to stricter rules in the community. And incredibly, and this will maybe even be more incredible as I tell the rest of this story about this specific level, no splice has been found on Frigate since 2012, 2013, since the Henning splices. And it is kind of remarkable. It makes you wonder if, one, perhaps people have realized, oh, splicing and speedrunning isn't worth it. You know, if we've finally come to this revelation after, you know, the first 10 or 15 years of speedrunning being a thing. Or if people think they're going to get caught because the detection techniques are much better. Or if people just have done it and have not been caught. Right? We don't know the answer. But we do know that there has not been any new Frigate splices caught in this time. And so the brief story of Frigate Secret Agent is that Dave Clemens achieved 101 in 2009, and this would remain untied for about 4 years, 1,400 days, a very long time. This is actually 10th all-time on the all-time Untied World Record list. No record today is in the top 10 all-time, although the Frigate Secret Agent 58, which we'll get to, is getting close. It's in the 1,300s amount of days, very close. Henning claimed to have tied and then beaten Clemens's 101 in 2011-2012, but this was later removed, and so we had to retroactively realize that Clemens actually had the Untied the whole time. But Luke Pettit came along in 2013 and would tie Clemens's 101, and he would later untie with 1 minute in 2014. And that's a very, very noteworthy time to keep in mind. Luke Pettit's 2014, March 2014 or so, 1 minute flat. That time, too, would remain untied for a number of years. Pettit is an interesting character because, unlike a Clemens or a Henning or an Ace, who we'll mention in a second, Pettit was not ever a top 10 player. He was more of a specialist player, and these aren't that uncommon in this day and age. Players who are really good at 1 or 2 levels of the game, but not, you know, a well-rounded player to make the top 10 in points. But he was a specialist, very, very good at Frigate specifically. And so he had 1 minute. And also, a little bit before he got that 1 minute, in 2012, he also untied the double O agent stage with 1 minute and 5 seconds. And obviously, this was at a time when Henning's splices were revealed. There was a lot of controversy and drama in the community. And Pettit, with that 105, went above and beyond in proving that it was legitimate. He had a video where he showed a VHS tape that he had recorded the run on, inserted it into a VHS, showed the whole session, and, you know, obviously it's still theoretically possible to splice a run and, you know, come up with that proof to kind of further your claim. But all things considered, he went above and beyond to prove that that 105 double agent was legitimate. And so this is a very honorable and respectable thing that Pettit did to show us that about that 105 at a time when skepticism was at an all-time high in the community. So Pettit gets 1 minute, Frigate Secret Agent. It remains untied through 2014, 15, 16 into 2017. 2017 is when I begin the SpeedLore series. And the very first episode I did was on Frigate Secret Agent. Of course, because it has such a crazy story that we're really now caught up on where I would have done that episode on, but there's still more, obviously, to come. So I do the Frigate SpeedLore Secret Agent episode, and it's obviously quite well received. People have not seen such a thing before, and you know, really launched the series into becoming what it is today. So I look back upon that episode fondly. About a month after I performed that episode, I would have performed it in late January 2017. About 1 month later, Perfect Ace as he does, achieves 59 seconds on Frigate Secret Agent. He's just trying to tie Pettit's 1 minute. Obviously, the SpeedLore sparked interest in the stage, and Ace goes out there like the madman he is and jumps over 1 minute, gets 59 seconds. Unbelievable. Amazing time. We think, wow, a very luck-based level. 59's at a point where not even many players can actually go and pace 59. A lot of people could pace 101, 102. So when that was the record, it was a lot of fun. A lot of people could play out runs and maybe have a chance at the record if they got lucky. But 59 is starting to get where not many people have a shot. And then not only do you need to get 59 pace runs, you also need to complete the mission with the lucky hostages. Ace does it. At this point, Pettit has not been around the community nor playing since 2014, since his last Frigate record. Unbelievable, right? So no one expects what happens next, which is 1 or 2 days later, on March 1st, 2017, Pettit shows up and reveals that he has achieved Frigate Secret Agent 58 seconds. This is just stunning and really unbelievable. It's really unbelievable because you think on Frigate, you're playing run after run after run, session after session after session, the level's never completing for you, and it's such a grind. It's such a grind. What are the odds that Pettit, after 1 or 2 days of seeing Ace beat his record, he goes back in there and takes his record back? Right? It's not a level that's very conducive to that because of the immense luck factor. Some people have speculated that maybe Pettit hoarded the time. That is to say, he had been playing for the previous 3 years only Frigate Secret Agent, going for 58. He had achieved it at an earlier date and would only reveal it at that point once his 1 minute time had been beaten. Of course, some people think, well, perhaps it's spliced. Perhaps it's spliced. No evidence of the run being spliced has ever been detected, and this is probably the run that's been analyzed and studied more than any other speed run on the GoldenEye rankings today. The run seems to be legitimate, and again, Pettit went above and beyond improving the time. He showed his complete session from power on the console to the record. This usually helps indicate that there was not an EverDrive or a GameShark used, because when you start up a game with GameShark or EverDrive, you would see those loading screens before launching into the game. So Pettit, again, went above and beyond, proving this Frigate Secret Agent 58. By all accounts, it seems to be legit. It's only even considered, some people are only skeptical because of how unbelievable the circumstances are. That this luck-based level, he would untie it 1 or 2 days after Ace beat his previous record, and also after not having played the game for 3 years. At least it seems that way based on his times page. And it was even really crazy the past 1 or 2 years because he still hadn't played. So it just looked like this crazy anomaly where, he had a few PBs in 2013, 2014, none 2015, none 2016, untitled record Frigate 58 in 2017, no PBs 2018, no PBs 2019. It's like he just came back for that one moment to get his record back and ride off into the sunset. He has actually come back more recently and played and gotten a couple of, decent top 10, top 20 times on a couple stages. So, yeah, really a remarkable story. And it is the longest standing Untied in the game of GoldenEye as we speak, 58 seconds. A handful of people have 59. Ace, of course, got 59 before Pettit did. Or Pettit actually never got 59, but he skipped right to 58. Another gentleman, Frosthops, has 59. He also has the record on double agent, so he's a very skilled Frigate player. And perhaps we'll see him go for Frigate 58 in the coming future. And Wotus, the reigning champion of GoldenEye, also has Frigate 59. And so you kind of wonder if he might say, oh, you know what, one more second to cut and slay the longest standing Untied. These are called the LSU for short, obviously. And it's always a cool thing to slay the LSU, right? It becomes this behemoth, this beast on the rankings, and someone has to tie it eventually, right? So there is some incentive there to tie the LSU, and perhaps that'll lead Wotus to doing so, or someone else, but perhaps not. The record's been untied since March 1st, 2017. Amazing and stunning run, and yet that's really all there is to say about it. Frigate Secret Agent. You know, some might know about the 2.3 strategy. I've discussed this in another video. White Ted achieved Frigate 22 on Agent with it. It's hard to say if that would help on Secret Agent. Obviously, it's much more difficult to play the levels 2.3 to begin with. Luckily, the Secret Agent strategy does have a pause very early on. You just run directly to the pause to throw the tracking bug. So that might help a little bit, but it's also even harder to free the hostage in the cutscene using Control Style 2.3 because the guards have more health on Secret Agent. So who knows if we'll ever see Frigate Secret Agent played with the 2.3 control style, and if that'll affect the status of this longest standing Untied by Luke Pettit. A truly remarkable world record, to be sure. The next oldest Untied is, you know, it may sound strange to say it this way, but I consider it to be very much a sleeper Untied. This is Aztec 00 Agent 135 by Luke Sklar's, past champion of the game. Achieved September 10th, 2017, and now in the 1,100 plus days range. So if this goes one more year Untied, it could make the top 10 all time. It does sound strange to call it a sleeper Untied that way, and even, you know, I did a video in 2017, top 10 speedrun records of the year, and I had this on my list at number 5, I believe. And, you know, of course, I'm kind of more biased to the Nintendo 64 games. That's what I know best. But I saw it as being very good back then, good enough to include on such a list. Another Untied also said in 2017 would be a little bit higher on the list, but of course we'll get to that in a little bit. So the circumstances around Aztec 00135 are, you know, quite interesting as well. Luke, along with his pals Jono, DSX Challenger, and Mirror Mage, of course, are the three musketeers who performed the Kapap trilogy of Unhoard videos. They started this in 2015. They unhoarded some good times, some world records, and made a really cool community project video that a lot of people, you know, a lot of engagement, a lot of positive reaction. People really enjoyed seeing three guys come together and create, you know, this both creative project and speedrunning project. It was pretty cool and not something that we had really seen much of at that point. They would do this again in 2016 with a couple other speedrunners now as well, and again in 2017, Kapap 1, 2, and 3. Come 2017, there was a lot of expectation to outdo themselves each time, which is a lot of pressure, for sure. Especially playing speedrunning under pressure is tough and often not conducive to success. I believe in neither Kapap 1 nor 2 they had an untied world record. And so it was kind of like, we make this big deal about unhoarding and getting a really good set of times. But it's like, ooh, none of them were untied. None of them push the game that extra layer. None of them go that step further and push the boundary. Surely they must need an untied in Kapap 3. And like, that's a lot of pressure, right? It's not easy to get an untied world record. Now, fortunately, Green Lunette was one of the players in Capap 3. Perfect Dark player mostly, although he's also a good GoldenEye player now as well, with an Untied and GoldenEye set much later. But he scored an Untied in Perfect Dark, I believe on Investigation Perfect Agent. That time is no longer Untied. A lot of new strategies were discovered there, but he got an Untied and kind of helped sizzle the pressure a little bit. But still, Luke, you know, the expectations were mostly resting upon him because Jono was like a top 10 player peak, very good player. Mirror Mage was also a good player. He actually got an Untied he got the Historic Depot Agent 23 Untied. So these are Untied capable players, but Luke was, you know, the champion of the game. It was kind of expected if someone's going to do something big, it would be him. And so the closing run of Capap 3 was this Aztec 00135 set to, and oftentimes these speedruns were set to music, set to popular songs or songs that people liked. Kind of adds to the lore and the spirit of the Unhorde and the creative project. A lot of guys back in the day in 2006, 2008, even earlier, when videos, often it was kind of hard to record both video and audio at the same time with a camcorder or stuff like that. Since there was no audio, you'd put in a popular song or a song you liked. Back in the day, of course, Linkin Park was a very popular choice among GoldenEye and Perfect Dark speedrunners, especially stuff like In the End and Numb and so on. So putting a music song to a world record has significance to it, historically with the community and in these Horde projects. And the song Luke chose for his Aztec 00135 was the performance of Hurt by Johnny Cash. You know, this is a song that is about suffering, often self-inflicted, and coming to terms with the life you've made or the suffering you've endured. And obviously, in some ways, you know, does it sound appropriate for speedrunning? Maybe people think it's an over-exaggeration, but I think it's very appropriate for the quest of a speedrunner. Especially on Aztec 00, probably the hardest level to live of any in GoldenEye. It's absolutely brutal. And to endure hundreds and thousands of runs on Aztec 00 Agent to get the Untied World Record, very, very fitting song, I would say. It's a song that I've long thought to use in a video if I were to achieve an appropriate record for it. And of course, I never did. But I think Luke's choice of that song for Aztec 00135 is masterful. I really think so. And the run, too, is absolutely masterful. Really just an ideal run. I think part of the reason, you know, Aztec 135 is not seen in the same light as some of these truly amazing standout records is because the level's so hard to live, there's always room for improvement. There's always the possibility that you can go lower, optimize a little bit more. Very, very, very hard to do, but doable. And so Aztec 135 is certainly not maxed by any terms, maybe not even close to it per se. That doesn't take away that it's an extremely good record. And of course, it's been Untied for over 3 years now, since September 2017, a testament to how good of a record it is. It was actually a 2-second Untied when set. Clem and Ace, and maybe one other, maybe Mark or Wotus had 137. And so 2-second Untied, only Wotus has gotten 136 in the meantime. So that again shows you, in 3 years, only one person has come within 1 second of the 135. Amazing, amazing run. And like I said, though, it is beatable. This one won't last forever. It certainly could make it to the top 10 all time, but it won't last forever because there are other strategies to get the glass door open, you know, more quickly. I mean, his run is so good, though. He really does not waste any time in the earlier rooms, which you often see on Double Agent to be more cautious. And the 135 time is kind of iconic too because on the Speed Demos archive site, which was a lot of people's first introduction to speedrunning, the record videos there are very, very outdated. Back from the 2004-2005 era of GoldenEye gameplay. But the record on Aztec Agent at that time was 135 by Wouter. So to see the 00 Agent record now, it would have been 155, 156 at that time. But so to see the 00 Agent record fall 20 seconds to where it was on Agent at this iconic sort of period of speedrunning that introduced a lot of people to it, it's kind of poetic in a way to see 135 that way. Amazing run. Something I'd like to see on Aztec 00, there's always a lot of talk of, will someone ever survive a no body armor run? It's at least theoretically possible, but the odds of getting anywhere close to the end without getting hit are so low, and then even surviving with full health and no body armor in the big room at the ending, this almost never happens either. I tried it a handful of times and pulled it off once, just as a test to see if it was at least theoretically possible, and it is. But it's so unlikely that anyone will ever, if anyone ever pulled that off, a no body armor Aztec 00 Untied, it would be heralded as like the most insane Untied ever performed in GoldenEye history. It really would. Something though that I think we might see soon is this technique in the big room, in the final big room. You have to run into it. There are 4 guards with Moonraker lasers, there are 4 drone guns, and there are other stray guards with lasers and AR-33 weapons. Very chaotic. You have to go in, insert your telemetric data into the mainframe, and then come out of the room as well and seek safety in the vents or somewhere else in the stage. There is a tool assistance only strategy, and partly used on Dark License to Kill as well, where you kind of seek shelter in the big room behind some metal crates. And it is very fussy to pull off, and you're getting hit in a lot of directions. But if you can find the right spot and take out a drone, you're safe there. And so I wonder if we'll start seeing that used more and more in Aztec 00 Agent. It's possible. And that would go a long way to increasing the amount of runs that you survive on the stage. And when you increase consistency in survival, with that comes an increase in speed because you can take more risks. So, but all that being said, Aztec 00135 is still an amazing, amazing record. Been Untied since September 2017. The Kapab video was actually not released until October 2017. So it would have been actually quite frightening to sit on an Untied for two second Untied for a month and fear, what if someone also gets a similar time and steals my glory. Didn't happen. And the history shows an amazing record. Great way to cap off Kapap 3. And this has inspired many other hordes in GoldenEye and other games in the years since. The next record is an absolutely mad record. Of course, I can talk about all these for ages, but this one is just insane. This is Mark Rutsu's Silo Secret Agent 107. Originally set November 3rd, 2017, right around 1100 days old. So set only about a month and a half after Luke's 135. The situation around Silo at the time was just so insane. There was a lot of streaming going on. I was streaming for the 00 Agent record. Clemens was streaming for the Agent record. And Mark was playing for Secret Agent. Mark would get Secret Agent 107, and we deemed that he had cast a curse upon the community, such that our top 10 players were not able to get Untied World records, or records, period. Clem was failing at getting Silo 1 minute, couldn't pull it off. I was failing severely at getting Silo 00 121. Luke had been playing Aztec Secret Agent, trying to get the Untied there, and was struggling with it as well. Obviously, he had maybe in mind to go for the Untied sweep there after his 00 world record. Obviously, a lot of it is kind of, performance art. Just the act of you play things up immensely. You play things up in such a way that obviously they're a bit more ridiculous or more extreme than they actually are. And so this journey that we all went on to try to shake off Mark's curse, really great times and great memories from streaming back then. Amazing times. Eventually I would go on to tie Ace's Silo 00121, and we deemed that was the end of the curse. Finally, the curse had been lifted when I finally managed the Silo 121. Oh my goodness. Clem would go on to get Silo Agent 1 minute after that. But for a period of about 3 weeks there, it was unbelievable. We bought into this. Mark has always sort of purported to be a master of the dark arts. He would be the kind of person to curse other speedrunners in such a way, to place a hex on them so that they couldn't perform as well, so that he could go on and achieve glory. And again, a lot of that is just playing it up, right? Playing up our personalities and characters. But yeah, that was such a great time in the community. And of course, what is insane, I guess, is that no one has tied Mark's 107 on Silo Secret in the years since. No one has tied it. It's a level that means a lot to me. Certainly, the Silo Secret and SpeedLore episode is one of my one of the most meaningful to me that I've done. I untied 110 and 109 on that level. Ace got 108 as part of an Untied sweep in 2013. A few people, Mark and myself, tied 108. But yeah, then Mark got 107 in 2017, and no one's been able to tie it since. And few people have even got 108 or 109 in the time since, too. 107 is an extremely, extremely good record. Even back in, the early 2000s, the mid 2000s, when I, was going for 110 on the level, my first Untied there, I kind of saw 106 as being sort of the upper limit of where Silo Secret Agent could go. And maybe with today's knowledge and stuff, you might be able to see a little bit lower, but 106 is like a very ideal, almost beyond perfect run. And so for Mark to be at 107, that's like pretty close. I kind of think, obviously I have 108. I kind of think I know the level as good as many others. I'm unsure if I could get 107. It would be a hell of a grind. I could play it for maybe 200 hours, and I still wouldn't be certain that I would get 107. Whereas on Double Agent, it's interesting. I still have the time 121 with Ace. If I played 200 hours there, I'd be pretty confident I could get 120. But 107, I feel, is like a step above 120 on 00. And it's fascinating because, of course, 2 years later, Mark would untie Silo Agent 59. Another historic, immense record unto itself. Very fascinating, a lot of deep lore to that one, of course. He got it unrecorded and then pulled it off again, recorded with Tim Tams in the room. The pop-off 10 pop-offs. So a lot of people expected he would go for Silo 00 Agent 120 to get the Untied sweep. And it's still out there for him. He could still do it, but he hasn't really gone for it yet. And he has claimed he's going to come back and play soon. So we'll see if he does or not. If he gets the Untied sweep, maybe someone would want to go for one of the Silo records to break it, and maybe 107 would be that one. Amazing stuff by Mark Rutsu on Silo Secret Agent, a really, really great Untied world record. The third longest standing world record currently in the game of GoldenEye, set November 3rd, 2017, about 1,100 days old. The next oldest Untied, fourth longest standing Untied currently in the game of GoldenEye, is a record which I'm sure you will all be familiar with, Damn Agent 52 by Carl Jobst. This one obviously has a lot to discuss as well. But I think discussing who could be the one to tie it really becomes a discussion of motivation. Maybe people know or don't know, Obviously, Carl now has a lot of success on YouTube, telling stories about speedrunning. He's done very well for himself in the past few years. Carl always had it in mind to go for Dam 52 because he knew it would be such a monumentous event that it would get his name out there, it would expose people to him, and it could be the platform or leg up from which he could then build a larger audience. And that was perhaps his main motivation for going for Dam 52. He also thought he didn't like a lot of the criticism because 100 plus people had tied 53 at that point. And so some outsiders would say, oh, GoldenEye, silly game, hundreds of people have this record, rounded to the full second, very silly, who wants that? And okay, fair enough criticism, and he wanted to quell that criticism by getting 52 and untying other multi-tied agent records, which he did. But a big part of it was that he wanted to have something huge, articles would be written about it, his name obviously would increase in search engine optimization, and a big boom from which he could go on and build what he has now. And it worked out for him great. Even though it actually took about a year from Dam 52 for him to really start taking off on YouTube, I think it still had the same impact because once he started making videos, people know, oh, he's Carl Jobst, he's the guy who got Dam 52, this monumental world record. And this is a level, it's not that fun to play. You're running in a straight line, hoping to get 3 boosts. He spent 250 hours playing it. Really 250 hours of running into a wall. Not that enjoyable. He had 3 boost runs in the time. So, once every 70 or 80 hours, you're getting a 3 booster and hoping to clutch it out and hoping you got a good, kind of leg, not that much leg to get 52. He obviously had immense motivation to get this time, right? He saw the long-term goal. If I get 52, I can have this big boost to my name, establish myself in the more kind of popular sphere of speedrunning. His name was already very well known among the GoldenEye Perfect Dark players. Of course, the past champion of Perfect Dark. But in the wider community, it was not as well known, and of course, Dam 52 would change that. So the question comes, if someone is to spend hundreds of hours playing Dam Agent to tie 52, could they ever sum up similar motivation? And I don't think they could. I don't think they could because, for one, even if someone had similar goals as Carl, to establish a large following online, I don't think that tying Dam 52 obviously would have the same effect as being the one to first set it. It wouldn't. So the boost wouldn't be quite as big. And not only that, it seems like most GoldenEye runners nowadays don't have that sort of motivation. They just want to play and enjoy playing. And I used to kind of think you know what, if you're playing, why not at least try to build something out of it? But now I understand as well. Some people just want to play, and that's cool too. So I really don't think anyone has the motivation to go for Dam 52. Of course, tying it alone would be cool, right? Being the guy who tied Dam 52 would be pretty damn cool, be pretty epic. And you would get a lot of praise, and that is always nice to get in speedrunning, of course. Anyone would be lying if they said that the community praise wasn't at least a part of what feels good about getting a new PB. But is that enough to spend hundreds of hours running into a wall, playing Dam Agent? I don't know if it is. I really don't know if it is. What's the point? Aztec Double Agent, Silo Secret Agent, Frigate Secret Agent, these levels are at least fun in a way. People enjoy playing them. I don't know many people who enjoy playing Dam Agent. And it's a testament to Carl's will to get the time. on not that thrilling of a level. It really is. But in terms of someone going out there and matching it, it may be a very, very, very long time before anyone goes out and ties Dam 52, because what's the motivation? That's really what it comes down to. When you speedrun, you want to do it for fun, mostly. Feeling a sense of accomplishment, community praise, it's part of it, but mostly you want to do it for fun. And Dam Agent for 52 is not fun. That's all it comes down to. It's about a month younger than Mark's Silo 107, so also around 1,100 days. And I suspect we'll continue to see it rack up days in the years to come. You know, I actually have a bounty out there. You know, speedrun bounties are fairly popular. I have a bounty out there, $100 if someone gets Dam 52. Just a little bit of a inspiration, motivation. You know, the way I see it is that if someone gets it, obviously I'll be able to make a video about it and, you know, kind of hopefully get a return on the investment, right? That's why I put that $100 out there. But I don't think that's enough. I don't think that's enough for Dam 52. Maybe in 5 years, there'll be thousands of dollars on the line to get it, and that might inspire someone to go for it. But until then, I expect it's going to be a long, long time or take something remarkable for Dam 52 to be tied. A very remarkable run, and deservedly one of the most iconic in the game's history. And the last record we have to discuss today is, of course, the 5th oldest standing Untied, currently in GoldenEye. And it's the last of 5, which are over 1,000 days old. The 6th and lower are all less than 1,000 days old. So kind of a fitting place to stop anyways. And this one is perhaps a little bit less well known than some of the others. This is Henrik's Train Double Agent 148, set in January 2018. So nearly 3 years old. Very, very, very good time. You know, Henrik has an interesting career with the GoldenEye speedrunning community. He got up to about 5th place or so around 2005, 2006. He would have been a teenager at the time, similar age as myself. And you know, at that point, he kind of began to shift his focus to finding strategies and doing tool-assisted speedruns of the game. And I find this to be very admirable, to be honest, because you know, he could have spent that time trying to keep his head above water in 5th place as you know, the Aces and Clemenses and Rootsus and so on were passing him. But instead, he did something that has been a great benefit to the community. Finding new strategies, tool-assisted speedruns, and so on. So I find that very admirable. You know, whether that was intentional or not, you know, it can always be tempting when you're getting passed to dive back in and try to keep your head above water, you know, prevent people from passing you. But sometimes you got to find other things to do, other ways to contribute. And, but of course, sometimes as well, you got to dive in there, and especially on your very best level. And Train is certainly Henrik's best level. Obviously, his Train Agent Untied, 56 seconds, is like the more iconic Untied. Really amazing, especially because Train Agent has historically been a long-standing Untied level. A lot of Mark Rootsu's records there were Untied for a very, very long time. So for Henrik to get 56 to beat a Rootsu Untied is stunning and unbelievable. But 148 is maybe almost as good or better. It's really an amazing, amazing record. When you think of people who could tie 148, there was really only Ace and Mark. They have 149, and everyone else is a little bit behind that. So, you know, if Ace and Mark don't play Train Double Agent, it may stay untied for a very, very long time. And interestingly, Secret Agent 123 is a 3-way tie, Ace, Mark, and Henrik. If Henrik were to untie it, that's the Untied sweep. Very amazing achievement to get the Untied sweep in this day and age. And he hasn't really been going for it, at least not openly, you know? So maybe 122 is just a little bit too far out there, you know? When Mark got 123 in 2012, it was considered the best of his train records. This is the infamous record where he gives the apartment tour and shows his dishes, Mark's famous dishes. So amazing record, shows the depths you have to go to get such an insane time. And 123, I mean, even back then was insane. I mean, you could make an argument that 123 Train Secret Agent is one of the best records in the entire game, given that it stood for 8 years. Only Ace and Henrik have tied it, and it doesn't seem like beating it is anywhere in sight. But who knows? Because obviously, that itch to get the Untied sweep for Henrik has probably always been there for a little while, you know. So who knows? Who knows what we'll see on Train? You know, Train Double Agent is probably my least favorite level. It's so chaotic. It is so stressful to play. You're always getting bumped around. You can't ever have a moment of peace on the level. On every other level, there's at least a moment where you can strafe in a line for 1 second and not be harassed by guards. But not on Train. On Train, it's just pure hell in the handbasket for 1 minute straight, and then you have to hope to survive the ending, which doesn't happen. So those guys, Henrik and Ace and Mark with the great times on Train, they're really amazing to me especially. And yeah, 148's a really good time. Almost 3 years old. I really don't think anyone's going to tie it soon unless a new player comes along and gets really good at Train. That's always a possibility. There's always the next Mark Rutsu out there. You know, it is true. There's always the next great player who might come along and change things. So that's the rundown of GoldenEye's top 5 longest standing Untied World Records as they stand today. Of course, this isn't the top 5 all-time list. There are only 4 or 5 records which have made 2,000 days. And these are all in the 1,000s, the one I talked about tonight. So they still have a bit of a ways to go to make the all-time longest stay untied ever list. But these are the ones that stand today. And so they're interesting because tomorrow someone could match it and change history. Even perhaps before I post this video, someone could beat these times and change history. So the fire seems to be fairly well dwindled out now, guys. So I think we're going to call it there. I hope you enjoyed this comfy chat. I really had a good time chatting with you all by the fire. And I hope you're cozy and relaxed. Maybe you fall asleep. And hey, as always, thanks for watching the video. I truly appreciate it from you guys. I hope you enjoy much more great speedrunning and gaming content to come. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next stream or video. Have a good night.